What's up, everybody? Welcome to a Friday, yes, a TGIF version of the YSN Power Hour, brought to you by our friends from Toyota of Warren, DJ Yoakley on this side, Scotty Mencher right over there. Scooter, what's the news? What's happening? What's hip?
It's another great sunny day. I can't believe these days in a row, these streak of beautiful days we've had in Ohio. I don't remember quite this many, nice days in a row. So just enjoying that. Was chatting a little bit with you before the show, and we had our golf outing today, and I performed. So that was a lot of fun. Just performing and chilling, having a good time. And it's funny because like you see golfers on the golf course, and I see some people just take it so seriously. Like, and I get it. Like, I'm a competitive person too, but I get the feeling that golf is one of those sports that would just like very quickly humble me, and if I was able to play, and I'd have to have a sense of humor about it.
Yeah,
Because
golf's it's funny, Scotty, because at the end of the day, these golf outings, especially when they're for causes, good causes like the one today, for Purple Cat and for Golden String. I mean, like you're there to support the cause. Like let's have some fun. Let's loosen it up. Like the one for East Palestine that I attended at the Lake Club. What a great day, right? Nobody was worried about winning or losing. They were just out there having a good time, and playing some golf and around with their friends and drinking and having just a great day out of it. That's to me what it should be should be about, right? Especially when it's causes and charities and organizations like that one today. And just to clarify, you performed on stage. You weren't out there swinging the clubs, right?
no, I wasn't out swinging a club. Um, Although I should maybe give it a try someday. Um, why not? But I was singing with the band. We are the Feral Cats is our name. We actually have a new album dropping in July. So
An
uh,
album?
yeah, that's exciting stuff. I haven't gotten an original. We're working on an original song for me, but so far I've just done covers and stuff like that.
So you're working on this song. Is it gonna? I mean, like written about your life, or what's this song gonna be about?
Yeah, I think we're leaning towards like about my life and um making it fun. Um I think we're gonna do like something about like stairs and how stairs and when I mean stairs, I'm talking about the stairs, people go up, STAIRS.
Yeah.
Um, but I just want to like have a sense of humor about it, so we're gonna do something funny because I've always tried to have a sense of humor in life. When I was in high school, I actually had this hoodie that said it had the disabled sign, like the handicap sign, and it said "stairs suck" on it. So um, I just want to write like a nice, upbeat song that's fun. Like I want it to be good, but I also don't want to take myself too seriously.
All
So
right, let me see. I've got YouTube pulled up right now. If you want to check it out, you can just Google the Feral Cat Band, and then it'll pull it right up. Let me see if I don't know if you'll be able to hear this or not, Scotty. Let me know. Can you hear that?
I'm not. No, I'm not
Okay.
hearing
All right,
anything.
so it's not hooked up, but yeah, go to YouTube, type in the Feral Cat Band, and they'd be able to see you, my friend. One of the screenshots is you in action, so I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes. Um, what songs did you sing today?
I today I did Smashing Pumpkins. I did Bullet with Butterfly Wings, and I think I told you I said Nirvana earlier. I was thinking Nirvana because I was wearing my Nirvana shirt, but I actually did Temple of the Dog, which was Eddie Vedder and Chris Cornell's band before they went off and formed their own bands, and Soundgarden and Pearl Jam. I did Temple of the Dog, Hunger Strike, and that's a good one because you got to get it. There's an Eddie Vedder part and there's a Chris Cornell part. So me and my good buddy Mark Castro, who's been in other bands as well. He's been a great friend of mine for years, and he does the Chris Cornell part because he could hit those really high notes. I struggle with the really high notes, so he helps me out with that.
I love it, man. I can't wait. I told you before, I want to get out and see you guys live. We should have an album release party. You guys ever think about that?
Yeah, there's gonna be. I'll let you know the date for sure. It's on a weekend, so you may be able to attend. I'll get the date for sure on Monday, but it's gonna be at West Side Bowl, the bowling alley. And we're gonna have a performance, and it is gonna be essentially kind of like a party. So I'll let you know the date and see if you could, come out and attend. But if not, even if you're not able to, we have um, several other gigs coming up. I think we're playing the Italian Fest downtown. We're playing, I think, the Canfield Fair. So
Oh man.
you will be able to make it to one of those.
The headliners of the Canfield Fair, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, we just need to get a radar singing.
Oh boy.
He's not a part of the band, which
Not
is
yet. By the end of this program, he may be, Scotty.
he may be. I'm sure he's gonna chime in.
Maybe he'll do the intros for you.
Yeah, I still laugh at his latest promo
His commercial.
for his commercial for us for
I love it.
YSN.
I love it. I love it. I love that he made his own commercial. It's really that's so radar. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um,
he gets in that zone, man.
oh, Scotty, I think that at the end of the day, I'm gonna be part of the Feral Cats, and I'll be the lead singer. I'll take it right away from you.
Cause I'm the man,
Cause I'm the man, Scotty.
and you're
You have
not.
to remember that I'm the man.
Yeah.
I love Radar. Could not love him anymore. All right, Scotty, we got a lot to talk about today. You have some topics that you want to talk about. I want to talk about later in this show the difference between superstars in professional sports and in college sports and high school sports for that matter, and just stars. And I'm going to tell you the difference, and I want to see if you agree or disagree with me along that point. But first, we're going to go to what you want to talk about because, my friend, this is your ship, and I'm just sailing in it.
Well, thank you, and that's very. You already. I'm interested to see where you go with the whole stars versus superstars thing. But first off, I wanted to get your thoughts. We were talking last week, and I think it was right after last Friday's Power Hour, and we were talking about how it'd be great to call a game together
Mhm.
and you said you wanted to call a baseball game with me this year. So I just wanted to know. I was thinking about it a lot, DJ. Um, I wanted to know what's the most challenging sport to call that you've called on as your time
Hmm.
in your sports network, and then also what's the thing that's most challenging about your favorite sport, or is the most challenging sport to call? Is it your favorite sport? Um, so
Ooh.
yeah,
So it's a toss up for the toughest sport to call for me. I think that when I'm looking at it, it's the sports that I'm not necessarily familiar with. So soccer, wrestling, lacrosse, those sports are kind of out of my comfort zone, which I try to push myself into there and really lean into it. Um, but they're challenging because I don't know the lingo necessarily. Like when we're doing a wrestling match, I try to have somebody there that can pick up the official play by play and understand, you know, this is headlock, this is, this is the point system, and be able to announce on the air how that goes because I'm not familiar with it yet. I'm learning. We are investing into a wrestling division of YSN led by Christopher Colucci, a young man who's been a state champion, a young man who has just bleeds and loves wrestling. That's coming this year. He's already started his own Instagram, YSN Wrestling Instagram, to get the hype around it. But we're going to focus a lot more on wrestling this year, and I'm going to learn a lot more about wrestling this year, so I can call it independently. Soccer's tough, Scotty. Soccer is a sport that I thought I'd be able to call. The only troublesome spot for me was the offsides calls, and what I learned was soccer. You don't always talk about the game. If you watch an actual soccer match on one of the major networks, they spend very little time, maybe 20% of the time, talking about the actual match, and 80% of the time talking about something completely other than the match. Whether it's the league or the sport itself or something that's going on in the world. They don't talk about the match a lot because soccer many times is such a low scoring affair. It's 1-0, 2-1, something like that, where if you're waiting for those high octane moments, you're going to be waiting for a long time and kind of drain yourself dry, if that makes any sense. We talk to announcers about making sure you're keeping the intensity up, the entertainment, the information up. But when something big in the game happens, you want to be able to manifest it. You want to be able to call it and get that excitement level to a 10 and then creep back down, not immediately, but creep back down to, a 5 or a 6. So for me, and lacrosse is kind of the mixture of the both. I love lacrosse, the game, but I can't talk about it naturally and with a flow. So yeah, soccer, lacrosse, and wrestling right now are the biggest trouble spots for me.
the biggest trouble spots. What about the sports you're familiar with? And I know that your favorite sport is baseball,
Mhm.
but there's so many like great baseball announcers out there, past and present. So for you, when you're calling a baseball game, what what kind of gives you? I'm not gonna say I think you're always prepared, but what you gotta always. I think everyone has at least a little bit of anxiety going into any game they call. So, what's the most challenging thing about calling like a baseball game?
And it's funny you ask because the most challenging thing now is not the most challenging thing that was when we started the company. What was really challenging was getting a space that you feel comfortable in, right? So whether that's getting the actual broadcast equipment set up, that it's, in a press box, or somewhere where you feel safe saying things, and we're not saying anything negative. So being able to say things that are positive, that people aren't just constantly looking at you the entire game, just you feel the eyes on you. That was the biggest challenge for a lot of people when they start, is you want to be heard, you want to do this, but you don't want to be heard by people that are there. So I mean, I think a lot of people are worried about, you know, getting made fun of, or, people laughing at them or whatever. I'll be honest, I was worried about that when we started. Now I could care less. Now I want them to laugh at me. I want them to laugh with me. The biggest challenge for me now is, especially in baseball, it's accuracy, and getting the right names, um, statistics, things of that nature, and making it, I feel like I always have a lack of information, because a lot of times I'm going out to these games that don't have a lot of, rah rah around it. There's no hype around it outside of, like, when we're doing state championships. A lot of times I get the last pick of the games, because everybody wants the marquee games, and I get sort of the games that nobody wants, and that's okay, because I want to make them feel important. I want to make them feel like, to quote Chris Sigler, when DJ shows up, the real deal's here. Like, you made it. I'm not sure I'm there yet, but I feel like that's when I walk into a gym, or I walk onto a baseball field, or whatever it is, people get excited, and that's exciting for me. The biggest challenge for me, Scotty, is making sure that I can deliver to them the same way that they want to deliver for YSN. So yeah, a long way around the planet, but there's the answer, is for, especially for baseball, is I want to make sure I'm as good as they are when it comes to delivery.
Have you, like, I know there's obviously people you look up to, but you've had your, people, like everybody else, you've had people doubt you in the past. I remember you telling me that um people told you in the past. Um, I I don't remember the names exactly, but they said you don't really, you're not cut out to be an announcer. You're more of a guy that people want to just go and have a beer with. So based on going off of that, have you always just tried to emulate more of your own style and bring your own things that are, good for the viewers out there, like, that are thought provoking and entertaining, or because this is such a copycat world. I mean, there was one soap opera at one time, and then there were all of a sudden 50 soap operas. So I guess my point is, where I'm getting at is it more you just went at it and you're like, I'm just gonna do this my own way and just kind of wing it, or did you really kind of take a lot from other broadcasters?
Something a lot of people don't know, is I really like doing impressions, and I've done impressions like my entire life. It's one of my favorite things to do. I have this weird ability, I guess you can call it, to pick up people's tendencies, and to be able to kind of mimic what they do. And I've taken that ability and put it into my announcing. And it's easy to say, hey, I'm going to do my own thing, and I'm going to live by it, or I'm going to die by it. But the reality is, if like, I'm taking a little piece of this, a little piece of that, and kind of making a megazord out of it, and creating what kind of announcer I would want to listen to. And it's not the way to sell. I was talking to somebody today about not selling necessarily the way you want to be sold, which is a sales tactic, but you don't always want to announce the way that you want to hear an announcer. But I think when you're on the microphone, you can hear your favorite announcers and the people that you cherish the most in your calls if you listen closely enough. So in my calls, you're going to hear a lot of Greg Brown. You're going to hear, who's my favorite announcer ever. You're going to hear a lot of Scott Van Pelt. You know, you're going to hear some of these guys that I've actually worked closely with, and but you're going to get a lot of DJ Yoakley too. You're going to get a lot of who I am, which is again made up of a lot of different people in my life. So, um, I'm I really like doing impressions. I like taking, those impressions and putting a twist on them and then putting them into a broadcast because somebody somewhere knows exactly what I'm talking about. And just like jokes, it's always better when you don't have to explain it.
Yeah, like when you just did when you did the
My radar.
radar. Yeah, I
Oh, Scotty, it's the bottom of the first inning. And coming to bat right now is Cecil Espidis. Cecil comes in with a 436 batting average. Of course, it's going to be very good at bat for him, and we're hoping for big things with the Mahoning Valley Scrappers
as we speak.
as we speak right now.
That's good good stuff. Yeah, I man, like I gotta say I had a blast. I've only called two games on the network, one this past year and one last season, and they were both basketball with Anthony. Um, the All Star game and then a regular season game out at South Range, and I had a lot of fun doing it, but it's the nerves were definitely there. It's kind of like the first time I worked in sports, which was back with the Scrappers. Um, in the summer of 2010, like I would just have nerves before we would go out on a assignment. They'd have me score the games and put the videos up on the jumbotron, and I'd be like, "Man, am I gonna just screw this up?" But then after a while, I'm like, you know what? Like, this is like such an awesome job, and I felt that way with announcing the games with Anthony. I'm like, this is so cool. You know what? Like, I know I'm gonna make a mistake here or there, but so what? Like, I wouldn't rather be doing like there's nothing else I'd rather be doing. So it's just one of those things where it's cliche, but you live and you learn. I guess, and I know someone like you. If we did a game together, you would help me out. Especially if it was baseball and it was my first time. I know you wouldn't let me fall flat on my face with my face in the dirt. So but
Mhm.
it's always like I, um, even though I know, like I realized a long time ago that I wasn't a guy that was probably ever gonna be on ESPN or any sort of like big time a network that's been popular for decades. I just thought like the whole concept of what we do in YSN and just guys chatting about sports and having fun, taking ourselves serious, but also just having fun with it. I think that's what I enjoy the most. Like I want people to be able to take something from me and take something good out of it, and I want them to enjoy it. But um, more so than that, I just want to be able to have fun while I'm participating in whatever event it may be.
Yeah, I'm trying to find this radar thing. I'm gonna load it up so when we go to break, it's that one. So I'm trying to figure out where this is so I can load it up. Um, what what other questions do you have before we go to break, Scotty?
I was just gonna ask you. Um, I I was just wondering. I read about um, changes to the Big Ten coming in 2024. It may have even been 2025, but they were talking about how, like, with USC and UCLA joining, and they were talking about, you know, teams facing off, like, at least playing each other, because now the Big Ten is up to 16 teams, and they were talking about teams rotating home and away like every other year. But what do you think of um, these conferences in college football? Kind of, it's becoming more of just teams going anywhere, and about the universities, and not so much the conferences. Do you think, there's enough parity in college football in comparison to the NFL, which a lot of people think, and I agree there's great parity every year, but do you think there's enough parity now on the college level? We've seen a team like TCU get in. Yeah, they got smoked in the final this past season, but we've also seen the Boise States, which have knocked off Oklahoma in the past. So, do you think there's enough parity in college sports and on the high school level right now? Do you think they did themselves a favor allowing so many teams to make the postseason in high school? Or do you think that was a mistake? And does it, is there any similarities you see when it comes to college and high school as far as parity goes?
Well, Sam jumps in and says there's absolutely no consideration for the student portion, like Rutgers, um, or US or Rutgers versus USC is like 3 days of fair travel wise. So I don't disagree with that. When you're listen, when you're making money off the backs of student athletes, whether it's high school or college, and you don't have their best interest in the forefront, I think it's a recipe for disaster. I've said before, and I'll say it again. I think the NCAA at some point will fall, and I don't think that the OHSAA is far behind that. And because when you're making teams travel, 7 hours for a football game round trip, I don't think that you have their student athletic uh, priorities in line with what your mission is, and how it's projected to others. So yeah, I have some problems. I have some problems with this. I saw USC and UCLA, and I think you kind of tapped on it real quick. Like, they're gonna travel across the country a lot to play these games. And yeah, I know it's on them. And why do you do that? But sometimes the governing body has to say, you know what, guys, I don't think this is a good idea. And nobody said anything.
Pretty much, you would say that's all because of the almighty dollar, right?
And I'm not mad about it. Like people think that I get mad because, when you talk about the almighty dollar, well, they bow down to dollars. I'm a capitalist, right? And pure and simple. And, from that standpoint, if someone can make money and is willing to go the distance to do it, but the problem is there's a lot of people that this looks like a good idea. I want to do this. We want to do this. And then you realize how challenging it is and you go, oh, it's not worth the money. It's not worth the money. And it's okay to change your mind. But there's a lot of people really excited about this I don't even, it's not a merger with USC and UCLA jumping into the Big Ten and some of these ever changing conferences. And you look at high school, which I think we're looking at the clock here. We're about due for another conference shift. So I think that I think there's a lot of finger pointing that happens, right? And even when things settle down, there's somebody that never feels like they're getting a fair shake at the table of these conferences, whether it's high school or college. I don't think USC and UCLA think they're going to get the outcome that they actually believe they're going to get. I really don't believe that. Playing on Ohio State year after year after year is going to get you notoriety, undoubtedly. But what do you do the other games? I mean, you got Michigan, you got Ohio State, maybe Wisconsin, sometimes Northwestern. What are you going to do?
Sometimes Penn State.
Yeah, sometimes Penn State. They're like, what are you going to do with the other 5 weeks? What are you going to do with the other 6 weeks or whatever it is? And a lot of these, Scotty, if you're watching, a lot of these, even at the high school level, some of these teams are package deals. Some of these schools are package deals with each other because they're not going to give up the revenue. USC versus UCLA, they're not going to give up the revenue that each other makes off each other, right? So if Ohio State leaves, you're damn right they're going to take Michigan with them and vice versa because they're not going to lose that game. But I don't think the Big Ten's going anywhere. I think the Big Ten has done a very good job to compete within the ever-changing forecast here in sports and the business world. But you just never know. It would not surprise me to see those two teams decide, hey, we don't like the way this is shifting, and they decide they're going to go somewhere else.
Do you think like a lot, even though they would never like come out and publicly admit it, do you think a lot of it is they look at the sports that are the most popular and they don't necessarily care about the sports that other sports that maybe aren't as I don't want to say aren't as well known, but they're definitely there's always sports like football and basketball. Sometimes they're always gonna be popular than or more popular, I should say, than like swimming. Um, the but you said with you being a capitalist, like I get the impression that you think that's fine, right? Like that's just the way America is. Like,
I think
um,
so. I've said this a number of times before on this show. At the high school level, I think counties in Ohio should all be like that's your conference, your county conference, right? And I understand, Sam will tell you Ashtabula. I mean, that's I think he said eight teams, something like that. It's a perfect conference. Absolutely perfect conference. 8 teams, boom. Then you go 2 teams in your, or I guess 3 teams, in your out of conference, you can go schedule whoever you want. And the in conference, you get bragging rights. And there it is. Your schedule's done. You don't leave anywhere. It's phenomenal for transportation. It means something because all those kids are growing up in the same county. Now, some of these counties will probably have to merge together, right? And to create a super conference or whatever it may be, because you only have 4 schools in some counties. Some counties might only have 2, but some counties are going to have 3 conferences. You know, when you get down to the Columbuses and the Mahoning counties, the Trumbull counties, and things of that nature. I think, let me pop this up real quick. I haven't read it, so I'm trusting you, Sam. Geography first, then school size. You have too many teams. I don't disagree. I don't disagree at all. Your geography has to be first. I really do think that. I think being able to be the king of the county or queen of the county, we need to start putting some flex and importance on that. Because right now there's teams in their own county that don't play each other, and I think it's silly. I think it's absolutely silly. And it's more than just one county. So if you're sitting there and you're going, hey, maybe I'm not talking about you. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm not. But the reality is if you're not playing the teams in your county, what are you afraid of? And I hear, well, this school's open enrollment and we're worried that they're going to take, then beat them. Then beat them. If you don't want them taking your kids, then beat them. And then if they do leave, you're going to a losing school. And if they say, well,
Yeah.
you know, at the end of the day, like, I just, you know, I want to be the best you want to be the best on a bad team, is what you're telling me. That's not the kind of guy or gal that you want on your team in the first place. So you're eliminating, you know, it's kind of like that process of elimination. You don't really want a person with that kind of ego on your squad anyway. You want the type of person that wants to win for the team first and foremost, and hold some pride in that. And, you know, listen, I'm telling you, open enrollment isn't going anywhere. It's not going anywhere. And with the transfer portal, it's no different than open enrollment. A little different, I guess. But in college, it's not going anywhere. These kids, these student athletes are going to be moving, trying to find their best opportunity to get to where they ultimately want to go. That's a capitalist society. I'm all for it. It forces the institutions and the programs to get better. Meet me at my level, right? And guess what? If the student athlete doesn't meet that level, they're gone. Because one of the problems that started this whole mess was these programs saying, well, you're not where we think you are. And they don't get playing time, and they just sit there and rot. Well, now, Cinderella, the shoe's on the other foot, and now they can go and say, well, your program isn't up to my standards, so I'm going to go over here for a bit, and then we'll see how things shake out. And schools are saying, well, that's not fair. You signed an agreement. You know, we recruited you. Listen, the shoe's been on the other foot for 100 years. Now it's a marriage, right? And if the marriage doesn't work, there's a divorce. That's welcome to sports in the 2020s.
And I mean, we talked last week or the week before. We talked a lot about, and you even said that you personally, you be more proud for a team accolade rather than getting the individual type accolades. But I do agree. I think you made a good point about how when someone says, you know, they want to be the best and stuff like that, they want the best opportunity. They really, at times, I think they want to, you know, just get noticed. They want to be the best player, but they don't necessarily care about the team winning.
Oh, I agree with that. Here's Siggy chiming in saying, I think Columbiana County would have to have some schools consolidate before they could make that happen. I'm going to disagree with this. If this was mandated by the state and they just eliminated everything from conferences and it came down to your county is your conference, I think the teams within Columbiana County would be very happy with the way things went. Because this is not exactly, but basically what they do out west. in the MAC conference. They all have their players. Nobody goes to separate schools because they have a lot of school pride, but there's also a gentleman's agreement over there, a handshake that says, we're not going to recruit your kids. We want to play your kids. We want to win state champions. Almost a super conference there because they all root for each other in the MAC. They all root. I mean, when they win a championship, it's MAC, MAC, or MAC, MAC, whatever it is. It's so frustrating for us in Youngstown. I get pissed. I get so mad whenever I hear it because I'm almost jealous. I want what they have. I want, and we had a whole show about how Youngstown teams cheer for Youngstown teams and our area teams cheer for our area teams, but not like that. That's special. That's incredible is what that is. They go to games just because that other team's playing in it. Not saying that, our schools don't, but they show up in a big way and they are cheering. It's like their team is winning it no matter what. And they do typically. But in Columbiana County, if you had Salem, East Palestine, United, Beaver Local, I mean, you go to Crestview, Columbiana, you go down the list of teams in Columbiana County playing each other. Lisbon, right? County seat. You look at that and you go, man, that would be interesting. That would be interesting because then you have a lot more pride. And I would think I would almost, I can't bet, but I would be willing to wager lunch that teams and players would stop openly leaving and transferring from school to school. And you'd find a little bit more school pride. Because here's the thing. When you're competing in that arena, yes, a state title, man, we want that state title. But then the county championship means a lot. I would argue at that point, the county championship means as much as the state championship because a lot of those teams aren't going to qualify for the state, right? They're not going to be in the state semis or the state championship. So that county prize becomes that much more important. It becomes a Big Ten title. It becomes that bowl game. That would be cool. That would be something a lot of people would get behind. But you'd have to have an entire state basically buy into that, Scotty. And I don't think that's going to happen because there's a lot of conferences and a lot of people's jobs, and they're going to go, you're not taking my job. We're going to keep this.
So is it basically you don't see it happening like ever? Like, put it this way, can you see something like that happening even in our lifetime, or do you just feel like there's no way?
Well, I don't think that there's no way. I think the way is very easy. I think it's just a hard road to get through and navigate through the course of. Chime in with Sam here. With the current playoffs, every deserving school will have their chance to prove themselves, own the area, and you will make it. It's that I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that again at all. I've done a lot of agreeing today. College, I think it's simple. You break it up into four quadrants of the United States, right? West, let's say the I don't know, what do you even call that area? The Midwest and the East, the Texas of the world. So you can go the West, the Northwest, the Midwest and the East. That's a lot of Wests, but you get where my point is. In college football, you just cut it up, and wherever you fit, that's where you go. But these conferences, it's turned into like I think it was Sam that said it's turned into a game of we want to make the mega conference. Well, if we get this and this and this, and it's all about like people don't realize this has nothing to do with level of play. This has everything to do with TV revenue. Everything. And if you don't believe me, look at what happened with the PGA and the Live Tour. And you think that has something to do with morals and values. And no, it has everything to do with the bottom dollar. And as long as you start thinking in that way, that majority of things that you do in your life, whether it's sports or personal, have everything to do with money, the easier your life's going to be to understand. Oh, okay, that's why. Oh, I get it. That's why. There's a lot of light bulbs that go off whenever you change that way of thinking. And for me, you look at high school, college, they're not going to do this because why is the Big Ten going to give up their $1 billion that they're going to get from, I think it's NBC, for that? They're like, why are they going to give that up? Why is, and then you got Notre Dame that's just chilling here like this because they've got, their own contract. Like, independency should not be, I have to be careful how I say this. You should not be able to be an independent team inside the NCAA. Like, you have to pick a conference. Because to sit there and cherry pick and go, well, we only want these guys, and we only want these guys, and we only want these guys. Same with the OHSAA. That's why county-wide conferences are perfect. I shouldn't say perfect. As perfect as you can get. Like, that is as close to perfection as you're going to get, because that keeps all your kids in the same county, right? They're not hopping over to one, to the other, to the other. And if your parents end up moving, they move. You can't stop. This is still America. You can't stop somebody, even if they go from one house to the other and they happen to live on that border. Sorry about your luck. You're playing. Like, they did not allow, what's the kid from the Mighty Ducks? Adam Banks, right? They didn't allow Adam Banks to play on the Hawks. He's a Duck. Sorry about your luck, man. That's how it goes. But if you want to stop the open enrollment, if you want to stop that, this is the best stopgap for it, because you have to start putting pride in what these kids are available to win. They're going around the country and they're winning championships with teams that are all-star teams, essentially. You've got to put some pride back into the hallways of schools in order to keep the kids in the hallways of the school. Otherwise, they're going to find somewhere else. I believe in open enrollment. I do, but not for sports. I believe in open enrollment because it's you better lift your ways. If your kid's not fitting in or getting bullied or whatever, 70 different reasons, then they should be able to go somewhere else. But I think that if you want them to stay, if you want to slow the speed of open enrollment, you have to put some pride back in your hallways. And it's not as easy as just a coat of paint and saying, go this team or go team in general. Like, there's got to be something to play for that they can brag about. And it's more than just a trophy. You can't just make it a trophy game and say, hey, this is going to be it. You might get a little bit of a rise out of it, but if you're playing for a county trophy every year, you're making your county better and county pride. So that way, when it is Mahoning versus Trumbull, there is a little bit of chippiness to it. When it's Mahoning versus Columbiana, there's a little bit of chippiness to it. We're better than you. We don't play you during the year typically, but now we're going to, and we're going to show you how we play football. We're going to show you how we play baseball. We're going to show you how, any sport. To me, Scotty, that's the easiest way and the best way to go about it. And there's so many people that are afraid of this, that the elder generation of people that are in charge will not let this happen. But the younger generation, I can tell you, would get behind this in a heartbeat.
So it's like it just you think it's more people that this is their mentality is this is the way it's been. We don't want change here. Like,
Siggy wants to know real quick. He says, what are you going to do with a county that only has one or two schools? Well, you just find the other county, right, close, and either add them to that as part of the bylaws. And I think you can do that without getting too crazy, right? You don't need to have 30 teams in your conference. But, I'm just guessing that if you don't have too many teams, there's probably the county next to you doesn't either. And I could be wrong on that. But I would imagine you can just add 2 more teams to the conference, north, south, east, or west, and you should be good. But again, I guess I would have to look at the map and say, okay, this makes sense. But the majority of times, this is going to make sense. This is going, not only is it going to make sense, it is going to be invigorating for the athletes, the coaches, and the schools, the communities as well, because you're going to get bigger gate. That I can guarantee. You're going to get bigger and better gate because you're going to know these kids every single game. And your ADs aren't pulling their hair out because they don't have, games. And I'm telling you, if you cancel a game in this environment, you're going to be in trouble because there's a lot to it. There's a lot of different ways that you can go through this. Okay, here we go. Colin says, how does a school the size of Maplewood compete with Warren? It's a good question. But at the same time, what if you win? Right? What if you win? I guess that's the thing is this forces a little bit of mental toughness. And I'm not saying that teams don't have it, but I'm kind of saying teams don't have it. Does that make sense? When you're looking at this, the size of the school should not matter. It should never matter. For some reason, Noah Doty is going to tell you at some point when he jumps on the show in the next few weeks. There's a school over to the east of us called Aliquippa. Do a little research on a school called Aliquippa. The PIAA keeps moving this school up. So, basically they're a Division 7 team here in Ohio. And I think they've been moved up to the equivalent of Division 2 in Pennsylvania. And so they're still winning state championships. It's nuts. It's absolutely crazy. And I think that when you're looking at this, you should not be looking necessarily at wins and losses. You should be looking at how you competed in that arena.
The opportunity you got.
Yeah. I mean, how did you compete in the arena? And if let's say Maplewood, I don't think they have a football team, do they? I don't think. I could be off. It's the ideal of, hey, we went the distance with a team that's 6 divisions bigger than us. That's a win. I mean, there's not a participation trophy guy, but that's a win. Nobody's sitting there telling Kirtland, well, you shouldn't be. They're beating D2 teams. Warren JFK is beating D2 teams. They got 20 guys on the roster. It's a mentality. It's perfect right here. Josh Upshire. I saw a shirt the other day and it said, no one cares, work harder. Scotty, I know you've heard that term. I love that term.
Yeah, me too. That's one of my favorites. I think actually one of the Browns players in the past tweeted that out.
So here you have size of local or size of school is your pool of kids. Sorry, I don't have my glasses on. I feel this would be lead to a lot of blowouts. Okay, but how is that any different than it is now? Right? I've seen blowouts in conference play. I've seen blowouts in the first, second, third round of playoffs. I don't think that it's any different than it is. I think that, and I'm not saying, Colin, you in particular, I'm just saying that there's a lot of people that, if you're scared, get a dog. Right? Does that make sense? Like we should not be scared. We should not be afraid to go up against other teams that make us better. Iron sharpens iron, and adversity makes us better in the long run. So, I'm sorry. I was taught that in college. Like, if you're scared, get a dog. And we don't want that kind of fear on our team. Checking in here.
I mean, just real quick,
Sure.
DJ, I remember you talking about YSU when the men were still playing and had a chance at the big dance. Like you said how it's only the beginning, and look what Butler did. You weren't saying, "Oh, if they get in, how in the world are we gonna compete with so and so?" Like it's not fair to what like you gotta take that shot, and you know
How about this one, Scotty? And
anything can
this one
happen.
I think you can relate to. Okay. In 10, 11 weeks, you have a team that is not even in the same NCAA bracket as another team. You've got Youngstown State taking on Ohio State, right? Do you think Doug Phillips is sitting there in a rocking chair, like cowering what's going to happen when they head down to Columbus? Or do you think he's absolutely looking at the opportunity like this could be it for us? If Youngstown State University, by God, beats Ohio State, that is the biggest, best opportunity that this university may have in our lifetime. What are the
Yeah,
odds?
for
The
sure.
odds aren't good, right? But I know for a fact that Doug Phillips isn't sitting there with his brand new baby boy saying, man, I'm scared. I don't want to go to Columbus. He is knocking down doors and getting his players fired up to go down there and kick some ass in Columbus. And it's got me fired up, man, because listen, I'm not counting out the Penguins. I'm not doing it. And we need more of that around here. I want to see D7 teams take on D2 teams. And D2 teams not say, "Hey, that's not a good matchup for us." You know what I mean? Like if that happens, that's a win for your team. That's a win because they're scared. They know it's not an easy game. You should want those thanks but no thanks letters coming back from teams above you in divisions, in Division 6 and 5 and 4 and 3 and 2. We don't have any ones, but you know what I mean? Like you should want that. You should invite that. And I love it. And I'm not knocking any teams that say no to teams that are lower than them, but I think when you get that back, you have to look at that and say, you know what? There's a team that's a significant amount bigger than us, and they're scared of us. That's a win. Put a dub on the schedule already for me. In county, I don't think you're going to have anybody backing down. I don't. I really, really don't. And if you do, I don't think anybody's got to say anything. I think it's going to be already piecemealed together that they need a dog. Let's put it that way. All right, here we go. Josh Upshire says, we added Poland, JFK, Jefferson, Aquinas, McDonald for non-conference games next year in basketball, obviously with Josh Upshire. These are teams that are getting us ready for the tournament. That's the end goal, winning a state title. My interest, Josh, we're all rooting for you to win a state title. But let me ask you this. If you were able to put a conference full of teams in your county together, would that fire you up to win that particular conference every year? Like that's your first goal. That's your first check mark on the board is winning that. And I know you do that already with your conference, but how much more? And I know you got to ride that lightning a little bit, but how much more would winning that conference that all these kids are playing in and all the surrounding schools, and I think the NAC does a fairly good job of taking care of that already. But imagine if it was just schools in your county. How much would a county conference title mean to a program like Badger? That's what I'm interested in. Colin, I love it. I'm not scared. Just don't want to match watch a lot of non-competitive games. My kids are all out of school. I get it. And by the way, congratulations. I think that this would lead to a lot more excitement. And I think it would lead to a lot more competition. And I think it would lead to a lot more of our county's better than yours. And kind of what if you remember, if you're old enough to remember, and I know I'm not saying you're old, you're just a little, you're my age bracket in that range. Remember when interleague was fun in baseball because it was new in the major league level? And now it's like, oh gosh, we have to play the A's. Like, seriously? You know, don't get me wrong. I love when the Pirates play the Guardians, but like, I don't get necessarily thrilled over when they play the the A's or the Angels or somebody like that. It doesn't get me fired up. Scotty, put a bow on this show. We're gonna get to the Joe Dickey Electric. What's your spark? Presented by Joe Dickey Electric. Anything commercial, residential, industrial, anything that makes you go zap. Head on over to DickeyElectric.com. I'm going to go first. My spark is I never made it to the superstar versus star argument. So we get to save that, put that in our holster, and go at it next Friday. So easy spark for me. What's your spark there, compadre?
All right, cool, good. I'm glad you're saving that for when I'm on the show again. Uh, my spark is just real quick. One DJ, real quick. It's actually two quick ones. One is real quick. I saw you got to take Z-Man to PNC Park, so that made me smile a lot. That was great to see. And you said you've prayed about that and wanted that for years. So happy for you
Thanks,
there,
brother.
man. And then my second spark was in a season that's been frustrating if you're a Guardians fan. Last night, Jose Ramirez finally had a game up to his caliber, and he had his first 3 home run game of his career. And my spark is not so much the game, but the fact that um, he signed a contract to stay in Cleveland when he could have easily went on to another team, a bigger market, and signed for a lot more money. I think a lot of people complain today about sports on the pro level in today's generation, and people complain a lot about how it's all about money and there's no team loyalty now, and you can't have favorite players, you can't buy jerseys like you used to in the 80s and the 90s. And maybe Jose's an outlier, but it's just refreshing to see someone stay with their the team that drafted them and that they came up with their whole career. You even started seeing it in the NBA a little bit when Giannis said he stayed with Milwaukee, a smaller market, to win a title. So that does make me happy that it seems like it's still tilted toward guys want money and they not only want to win, but they want to be in the best financial situation possible. That still is what it comes down to for the most part, but it's refreshing when guys take less just to, be on a team that they're comfortable with. So
You
my
say all that with Kyrie Irving in the background on your wall.
Yeah, Kyrie is in the background, and I have LeBron here too, so that's funny. But
All right, you ready for Radar Spark?
yeah, let's get it.
Oh, let's salute to all of the YSN and 440 and gold schools that had individuals and teams won an OHSAA title this past school year, 22-23. I believe 23-24 will be even greater.
We're profound.
I love
Wisdom of
Radar.
Radar Pavlov.
Oh, Scotty, it's going to be a big year here in the 330-440 area code.
Before you know it, he's gonna be. He probably already is emailing you all kind of stuff about
Oh,
uh, audible call high
I've
school.
I've I've got some problems with my email, so if he is, I'm not getting them. But there's a lot of people apparently that are trying to email me and not getting it. If you're out there and you're emailing me, I apologize if I haven't responded. I might not have got it yet. Um, that's gonna do it for our show, Scotty. Thank you as always for joining, and I hope you have a great weekend. Hope your vocal cords continue to shine here in the valley. And next week, I'd love to have a list of kind of where people can see it throughout the summer, man.
Yeah, sure. I'll give you that list for sure. And I look forward to our conversation on kind of stars versus superstars next week.
Looking forward to it, buddy. I hope all of you have a great weekend here, a safe weekend. Stay safe, stay responsible, but more importantly, just stay yourself. God bless you. We'll see you next time right here on the YSN Power Hour, powered by Toyota of Warren.